The morning of the funeral in the small town of Oakville, Ohio, was steeped in a heavy silence. The roads leading to the cemetery were blanketed in fog, as if the city itself were holding its breath to bid farewell to Maya Thompson, a beloved African-American woman who had passed away after a fierce illness. The crowd gathered around the grave, whispers blending with the gentle breeze. At the center of it all, 3 6-year-old triplets, Ava, Zoe, and Lily, stood close together, their tiny bodies swallowed by oversized black coats. Their wide, round eyes reflected confusion, more than grief. For death was still a distant concept, like a riddle yet to be solved. Ava, the oldest of the 3, if only by a few minutes, stood upright with her hands buried deep in her coat pockets, eyes fixed on the wooden casket covered in white carnations. She didn't blink, as if challenging the reality before her. Zoe, quiet and observant, scanned every face in the crowd, committing every small detail to memory, from how Mrs. Jenkins, their neighbor, dabbed her tears to the tense look in Aunt Clara's eyes, Maya's older sister. Lily, the dreamiest of the 3, didn't look at the casket, but stared at the gray sky as if waiting for a miracle to emerge from the clouds. A 38-year-old elementary school teacher, Clara Thompson, stood closest to the casket. Her stern demeanor and weathered face embodied the resilience that the Thompson family, a middle-class African-American household, had always taken pride in. Maya and Clara grew up in a tight-knit Cleveland community where their nurse mother taught them that independence was strength. When Maya fell ill, Clara put her career on hold to care for her younger sister and the 3 girls. Now that Maya was gone, Clara had become the guardian of Ava, Zoe, and Lily. She didn't cry not out of coldness, but because she believed that tears would scare the girls. But her clasped hands betrayed an unspoken grief. Despite its size, the Oakville community had shown up in full to honor Maya. Mr. Henry, a retired firefighter, whose portrait Maya had once painted for free, stood at a distance with his hat in hand. Mrs. Jenkins, who often brought cookies for the girls, whispered to a group of women about Maya's vibrant paintings that had once been displayed in the town library. Maya wasn't just a mother. She was an artist, an independent woman who had raised 3 daughters independently, and her story had become part of Oakville's story. Amid the somber air, a man appeared, disrupting everyone's thoughts. He stepped out of a black car parked at the cemetery's edge. Tall, thin, pale-skinned, he wore a long gray coat, his face partially hidden under a baseball cap. No one in the crowd recognized him, and he greeted no one. Ava, ever curious, was the first to notice. She nudged Zoe and whispered, "I've never seen that man before." Zoe nodded, her eyes narrowing as if committing every detail to memory. How he walked slowly, but with purpose, and how his hands stayed deep in his coat pockets. Though she said nothing, Lily felt something strange, like this man belonged to a dream she once had. The man stopped at the crowd's edge, far from the casket. He didn't cry or bow his head. He just stood there, his gaze seemingly locked on the coffin. As the final prayer was read, he stepped forward, his movements gentle but firm. From inside his coat, he pulled out a white envelope sealed with red wax. He placed it atop the casket among the carnations, then turned and disappeared into the birch trees without a word. His actions were swift but striking enough to catch the eyes of the 3 girls. Ava felt her heart race. Zoe noted the shape of the envelope, the bold red wax seal. Lily whispered to herself, "He looked sad." Although standing near the casket, Clara also noticed the man's presence. When he placed the envelope down, her eyes flickered with tension. She quickly stepped forward, grabbed the envelope before anyone else could, and slipped it into her coat pocket. Her movements were decisive, but her hands trembled slightly, as if the envelope carried a secret she didn't want to face. Ava turned to Zoe and whispered, Aunt Clara took something. Zoe nodded silently, her eyes still fixed on Clara. When the funeral ended, the crowd slowly dispersed, leaving the three sisters and Clara at the fresh grave. The girls couldn't understand why their mother, the woman who always said everything would be okay, even when her voice was weak, was now lying inside that wooden box. But the strange man and his mysterious act had planted an unspoken question in their minds. Who was he, and why had he come? As Clara led the girls away from the cemetery, her hand tightly gripping theirs, Ava looked back at the birch trees. Zoe remembered Clara's tense expression, and Lily, with her vivid imagination, felt as if the man had left behind a missing piece of a story they had never been told. In that moment, amidst the pain of losing their mother, a mystery had awakened. The strange man was not merely a fleeting figure. He was the key to a truth that Ava, Zoe, and Lily were determined to uncover. And Clara, despite her desire to protect them, could not stop the journey that was about to begin. In the days following the funeral, the house on Maple Street in Oakville grew quiet like a faded painting. Maya's soft humming no longer echoed through the hallways, nor did the faint scent of rose perfume linger in the air. The warm family evenings spent listening to their mother's stories about flying squirrels were gone. The 6-year-old triplets, Ava, Zoe, and Lily, felt that emptiness, even if they couldn't yet name it. The house, once glowing with Maya's paintings hanging on the walls, now felt cold under the structured rule of Clara, their aunt, and Maya's older sister. Clara Thompson, an elementary school teacher with sharp eyes and a posture as straight as a ruler, had moved from Cleveland to Oakville immediately after Maya's death. Raised in a middle-class African-American family, Clara was taught by their mother that duty came before emotion. When Maya was diagnosed with a terminal illness, Clara put her personal life on hold to care for her sister and her 3 nieces. As their legal guardian, Clara enforced a strict schedule: breakfast at 7:00 a.m., sharp brushing teeth at 7:15 study time, at 8:00 lunch at noon, and dinner exactly at 6:00 p.m. Everything was arranged like a machine, leaving no room for the spontaneous moments Maya used to bring, like baking on Sunday mornings or letting the girls stay up late with a book. Ava, the boldest and most inquisitive of the 3, was the first to push back. "Why can't we have toast with strawberry jam like Mom made?" she asked one morning, her brown eyes flashing with defiance. Not looking up from her newspaper, Clara replied curtly, "Cereal is better. Faster." Ava frowned but didn't argue further. Though thoughtful and perceptive, Zoe said nothing, but noticed how Clara's grip tightened around her coffee mug whenever Maya's name was mentioned. Lily, the dreamy one, with a vivid imagination, quietly sketched drawings of the man in the gray coat they had seen at the funeral in her notebook. He was standing under a tree. Lily whispered to Zoe, her finger tracing blurry outlines. Zoe nodded, her keen eyes assembling a puzzle. Though not always present, the Oakville community made itself known through small gestures. Mr. Henry, the neighbor and Maya's old friend, brought over a tin of cookies and reminisced about the time Maya had painted his portrait in his firefighter uniform. "Your mom was a true artist," he said in a warm, deep voice. Mrs. Jenkins, who ran the town library, left a fruit basket and a handwritten card recalling Maya's story hours with children at the library. These stories made the girls feel their mother was still close, but they also deepened a question they hadn't dared ask. If their mother was so wonderful, why did no one ever mention their father? The appearance of the mysterious man at the funeral had planted a haunting idea in the girls' minds. Ava, with the instincts of a young investigator, couldn't forget the image of him placing the envelope on the coffin. "He knew Mom," she told Zoe and Lily one evening as the 3 sat on the sofa, eating Clara's homemade stew. Otherwise, why would he come? Zoe, ever careful, nodded. And why did Aunt Clara take the envelope so fast? Like she didn't want anyone to see it. Lily, hugging her sketchbook, added, "He didn't look like someone from here. He was too white." Her innocent observation made the three fall silent. Oakville was a diverse town, but most of its residents were Black or Latino. The pale white man stood out like a ghost. Although busy organizing their new lives, Clara couldn't help but notice the changes in the girls. They whispered more and exchanged glances when she entered the room, and Ava began asking uncomfortable questions. "Auntie, did Mom ever talk about our dad?" Ava asked at dinner one night, her voice firm. Clara paused mid-slice of bread, her gaze momentarily tight. "Your mom raised you on her own," she replied evenly. "That's all you need to know." But that answer wasn't enough. Ava frowned. Zoe noted Clara's hesitation, and Lily added another drawing of the man, this time with imagined blue eyes. One night, after Clara had gone to bed, Ava led Zoe and Lily into Maya's old room, which Clara had yet to fully clear. The flashlight in Ava's hand scanned over boxes of paintings, books, and their mother's jewelry. Zoe, always careful, opened a small wooden box and found a photo album wrapped in silk. Inside were familiar photos. Ava, Zoe, and Lily were newborns. Maya held them in the hospital, and there were joyful birthday parties. But when Ava flipped further, she stopped. One photo showed Maya young and radiant, sitting in a cafe smiling beside a white man. His face had been cut from the image, leaving only an arm draped around Maya's shoulder. "It's him," Ava whispered, her heart pounding. Zoe took the photo, fingers tracing the jagged edge. Mom didn't want anyone to know who he was. Lily, inhaling the faint rose scent from the silk, whispered, "But he came to the funeral. He knew Mom." The photo was the first puzzle piece, but it raised more questions than answers. Why had Maya cut out the man's face? Why had Clara hidden the envelope? And most importantly, was this man their father? Ava gripped the photo tightly, her eyes blazing. "We have to find out," she said. Zoe nodded, her young mind already sorting through the clues. Lily, though frightened, took her sister's hands and whispered, "If he's our dad, Mom would want us to know, right?" At that moment, surrounded by Maya's keepsakes, the triplets began a journey they couldn't turn back from. The man in the gray coat wasn't just a mystery. He was a door to a truth they were determined to unlock, no matter Clara's control or the secrets Oakville tried to bury. The house on Maple Street in Oakville, once filled with Maya's laughter and the joy of her three daughters, now carried a haunting silence. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplets, were slowly adjusting to life under the strict supervision of Aunt Clara, but their minds couldn't stop circling back to the strange man who appeared at their mother's funeral. The cropped photograph they had found in Maya's old room of Maya, smiling brightly beside an unidentified white man, had become a flame, igniting their determination to uncover the truth. The girls believed the man in the gray coat, who had placed the mysterious envelope on the casket, could be their father. Ava, bold and curious, took the lead in their investigation. One evening, while Clara was busy preparing lesson plans in the living room, Ava convinced Zoe and Lily to sneak back into Maya's old room. Ava's flashlight swept across the untouched boxes, still holding traces of their mother, an unfinished painting, a beaded bracelet, and the faint scent of rose perfume. "We have to find more clues," Ava whispered, her voice firm, ever the careful observer. Zoe nodded, her sharp brown eyes scanning every corner of the room. Dreamy and quiet, Lily hugged her sketchbook and murmured, "Mom left something for us." Zoe, always good at finding things, pulled out an old wooden box from under the bed. Inside were stacks of papers, a few notebooks, and a wrinkled letter written in elegant script. The letter was from James Carter at Columbia University in New York, where Maya had studied art. Dear Maya, it has begun. I'm still thinking about the night we discussed Basquiat's paintings. You have a unique perspective, as if you see the whole world in every brushstroke. The letter ended with the line, I hope to see you again soon. James. Ava clutched the letter, her heart pounding. It's him. The man from the photo. Zoe reread the letter and noticed the date. It had been sent 7 years before they were born. Catching the faint rose scent from the paper, Lily softly said, Mom kept this because he mattered. Though not directly involved, the Oakville community remained quiet in the girls' lives. Clara took them to the town library to read the next morning. There, Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, spoke of Maya. Your mother once painted a massive mural for the library. She pointed to the colorful abstract piece on the wall. She said it was about family, but she never mentioned your father. Her words made Ava frown. Everyone knows Mom, but no one knows Dad, she whispered to Zoe. Zoe nodded, storing that detail away as another piece of the puzzle. Sitting in the corner of the library, Lily added a new sketch of the man, this time holding an envelope in his hand. Clara, despite her efforts to keep everything under control, began to notice the changes in the girls. They had become more secretive, exchanging glances when she mentioned Maya, and Ava was now asking increasingly complex questions. Auntie, did Mom ever talk about someone from New York? Ava asked casually at dinner, though her eyes were sharp. Clara paused mid-chop, her hands trembling slightly. Your mother lived in many places before coming to Oakville, she replied, voice steady. New York was just a part of her past. But the hesitation in her voice did not escape Zoe. She sensed that Clara was hiding something, perhaps something tied to the envelope Clara had swiftly taken at the funeral. Clara had grown up in a middle-class African-American family in Cleveland, where their mother, a nurse, had emphasized that women must be self-reliant. When Maya decided to raise 3 children alone, Clara supported her, though she had always worried. She knew part of the story about James, the man Maya had once loved deeply at Columbia. But Clara had also witnessed Maya's heartbreak when James left, and she believed her sister had made the right choice by staying silent. Now, seeing the girls, especially Ava, with her relentless curiosity, Clara felt unease rising. She wanted to protect them from Maya's pain, but Ava's determined eyes made her question whether she was doing the right thing. One night, after Clara had gone to bed, the triplets gathered under flashlight beams in their room. Ava laid out James's letter in front of them. He knew Mom at Columbia. He's the man in the photo. And he came to the funeral, she said, voice firm with conviction. Zoe, ever logical, pointed to the address on the letter, Columbia University Department of Literature. If he's still there, we can find him. Hugging her sketchbook, Lily whispered, but what if he doesn't want to know about us? Ava held her sister's hand, her eyes blazing. Mom kept this letter. That means he mattered. We have to find out. The girls decided to write a letter to Columbia University, inquiring about James Carter and his connection to Maya. Ava wrote the introduction. Zoe carefully checked every word, and Lily added a small flower drawing in the corner to make it prettier. The short letter asked if James was still at Columbia and whether he had known Maya Thompson. They didn't sign their names, fearing Clara might discover it. The next morning, Ava handed the letter to Mr. Henry, the kind neighbor who had been Maya's friend. Can you mail this to me? But don't tell Aunt Clara, Ava whispered. Mr. Henry smiled and winked our little secret. As the letter was sent off, the triplets felt a rush of adrenaline. Ava lay in bed imagining James reading the letter and rushing to Oakville. With her logical mind, Zoe worried whether the letter would reach the right person. Lily drew a new picture, the 3 sisters standing before a tall man with blonde hair and blue eyes. Though they didn't know the truth, The girls had entered an adventure bigger than themselves, and somewhere hidden within Oakville's secrets, the answers were waiting. In the house on Maple Street. Oakville. The Triplet sisters, Ava, Zoe, and Lily, lived with a growing secret. The letter from James Carter discovered in their mother Maya's room had sparked hope that the mysterious man at the funeral might be their father. Their decision to send a letter to Columbia University, where James once worked, turned their suspicion into a bold adventure. But under the close watch of Aunt Clara, this act required a level of discretion and bravery the 6-year-old girls had never thought themselves capable of. Ava, with the instincts of an explorer, took charge of the plan. In their shared bedroom under the soft glow of the nightlight, she laid a piece of paper before Zoe and Lily. Ava said, "We have to write it, so he'll reply voice firm, but quiet enough not to wake Clara." Zoe, always meticulous, nodded and picked up a pencil to begin drafting. "We can't say who we are yet. If Aunt Clara finds out, she'll be mad." Lily, hugging her sketchbook, added, "But we have to make him remember Mom. She was special." After an hour of whispers, the letter was finished. "Dear Columbia University, we would like to ask about Mr. James Carter. Did he know Miss Maya Thompson? She used to study there. Please tell him someone wants to know about her." The letter was unsigned, with only a small flower, drawn by Lily in the corner, a quiet symbol of hope. To send the letter without Clara noticing, the girls enlisted Mr. Henry, their elderly neighbor, and once Maya's close friend. The next morning, while Clara was preparing breakfast, Ava led Zoe and Lily across the gravel road to Mr. Henry's house. He was watering his garden, his silver hair glistening in the morning sun, and his warm smile as familiar as ever. "We have something, Mr. Henry," Ava said, holding out the letter, her eyes sparkling. "But please don't tell Aunt Clara." "Okay, Mr." Henry looked at the girls, then at the letter, his gaze momentarily thoughtful. "He said your mother was a wonderful woman," as though he already understood their secret. "I'll send it. Don't you worry." He slipped the letter into his pocket, winked, and the girls exhaled, feeling like they had just passed a great trial. While they waited for a reply, the house on Maple Street became a quiet stage of hidden tension. Clara, with the sharp eyes of a schoolteacher, sensed the girls were hiding something. They whispered, more quickly changed the subject when she entered, and Ava began checking the mailbox daily, something she'd never done before. "What are you girls sneaking around for?" Clara asked one evening at dinner, her voice firm, tinged with concern. Ava, quick-witted, replied, "I want to help with the mail, Auntie." Zoe, observing Clara, noticed her hands clenching the napkin, an unmistakable sign of unease. Lily, though silent, drew another picture of the man in the gray coat, this time standing in front of a large building, her imagined version of Columbia University. Raising in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, Clara always viewed protecting her family as her top priority. When Maya chose to raise 3 children alone, Clara supported her, though she silently worried about the hardships of single motherhood. She knew about James, the man Maya had once loved deeply, but also witnessed her sister's heartbreak when James left. Clara believed Maya was right to keep that part of her life private. But now, seeing the fire in Ava's eyes, Zoe's quiet contemplation, and Lily's vivid drawings, Clara began to wonder if she was preventing the girls from discovering something they had a right to know. Still, she kept the envelope from the funeral tucked away in her desk drawer, unopened, as if afraid that opening it would reveal a door she couldn't close again. Though unaware of the letter, the Oakville community remained a presence through stories about Maya. One afternoon, while Clara took the girls to the park, Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, stopped by and reminisced about the time Maya hosted an art session for the town's children. "She always said you girls were her inspiration," Mrs. Jenkins said, smiling kindly at Ava, Zoe, and Lily. But then she added a detail that made the girls pause. "Maya once said she left her past behind in New York. I always thought there was a story she didn't tell. Her words struck like a beam of light. Ava gripped Zoe's hand and whispered, New York. That's where Mr. James is. Zoe nodded, eyes sharp with realization. Lily added a drawing of a New York street to her notebook, complete with towering skyscrapers. Each passing day brought more anticipation. Every creak of the metal mailbox made Ava dash to the door, only to find bills and advertisements. Zoe began logging. Everything in a small notebook the day the letter was sent. Things Clara had said, stories from Mr. Henry and Mrs. Jenkins. Lily, though quiet, felt the man in the gray coat becoming more real through her drawings. If he's our dad, he'll write back right, she asked, trembling. Ava, unsure but resolute, held her hand. We'll find out. Mom wanted us to be strong. The simple act of sending that letter had changed the girls. They were no longer just little girls mourning their mother. They were explorers chasing a missing piece in their family's story. And somewhere in a quiet corner of Columbia University, their letter had begun its journey, carrying hope, truth, and the silent longing of a family that had never been whole. The house on Maple Street in Oakville, though still holding traces of Maya, through the paintings on the walls and the faint scent of rose perfume, now pulsed with a new rhythm, a rhythm of secrecy and anticipation. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplets, had been in a state of suspense since they sent a letter to Columbia University asking about James Carter, the man they believed was their father. The letter, sent discreetly through Mr. Henry, was a bold step, but the girls had to keep everything hidden under Aunt Clara's watchful eye. Still, Clara, with the keen instincts of a teacher, had begun to notice their secrecy leading to a confrontation that would change everything. Ava checked the mailbox daily, hoping for a reply from Columbia, but only found bills and advertisements. With her logical mind, Zoe kept a journal recording every detail, the date the letter was sent, things Clara said, and stories from the Oakville community. Lily the dreamer continued to draw the man in the gray coat, now with a large building behind him, her imagined version of Columbia. But the waiting wore on them. One afternoon, when Clara asked Ava to set the table, the girl accidentally dropped a plate. It shattered loudly, and Clara, usually composed, snapped, Ava, "Be careful. You girls have been so distracted ever since you sent that letter." Ava froze, exchanging a glance with Zoe. Did Clara know about the letter? Clara Thompson, raised in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, always considered protecting her younger sister Maya and her 3 nieces her duty. When Maya, a gifted artist, chose to raise her children alone, Clara supported her, though she worried silently about the hardships. She had known about James Carter, the man Maya had met at Columbia University, where she studied art. James, a white American literature scholar, had enchanted Maya with long conversations about Basquiat's paintings and Whitman's poetry. But when James accepted a teaching offer in Europe, Maya, already pregnant with the triplets, chose not to tell him, fearing he'd stay only out of obligation. Clara had witnessed Maya's heartbreak when James left, and believed her sister had made the right decision. But now, seeing Ava's resolve, Zoe's quiet thoughtfulness, and Lily's heartfelt drawings, Clara felt uneasy. She'd seen Ava checking the mailbox, and heard Lily whispering about the man from New York. The envelope from the funeral still sat in her desk drawer like a ticking time bomb. That evening, Clara called the girls into the kitchen after dinner. The 3 sisters sat around the table, Ava with her arms crossed, Zoe clutching her notebook, and Lily hugging her sketchbook. Clara's voice, stern but slightly trembling, began, "I know you girls are searching for something. About a man. About your father." The room fell silent. Ava lifted her gaze, her eyes challenging. "You know who he is, don't you? The man at the funeral." Zoe studied Clara, noticing how her hands gripped the table's edge. Lily, in a tiny voice, asked, "Why did Mom never talk about him?" Clara took a deep breath, as if stepping over a line she had avoided for years. Your mother Maya once loved someone in New York, she began slowly. His name was James Carter. He was a scholar who taught at Columbia. They met at an art exhibit and talked about paintings and poetry. Maya fell in love with him, but he always said he would leave, his future wasn't here. She paused, her gaze distant. James had already left for Europe when she found out she was pregnant. Maya chose not to tell him. She didn't want him to stay out of guilt. Ava scowled, her voice sharp. But he had the right to know. We're his children, Zoe calmer asked. What was Mom afraid of? Auntie Clara looked at Zoe, her expression softening. Maya and I were raised to believe women should be independent. She was afraid that if she told James he might hurt her again, or worse, that he wouldn't want you. Lily, her eyes watery, whispered. But he came to the funeral. He left an envelope. Clara stiffened, caught off guard by Lily's mention of the envelope. She turned away, pretending to tidy the dishes, but the girls saw her hands shaking. That envelope doesn't matter, Clara said firmly. It doesn't change the fact that your mother chose to raise you on her own. But Ava wasn't backing down. If he doesn't matter, why are you hiding it? Clara didn't answer. She left the kitchen, leaving the girls in silence. Zoe wrote in her notebook, Auntie knows more than she says. Though unaware of the letter, the Oakville community continued to shed light on the story. The next morning, Mr. Henry stopped by carrying an old photo of Maya at an art exhibit in the town library. She once told me about New York, he said, eyes distant. She said she left part of her heart there. His words made Ava squeeze Zoe's hand. That's James, she whispered. Lily drew another picture. Maya stood beside a man, their hands entwined, though his face blurred. Clara's revelation, though incomplete, had changed how the girls viewed both their mother and the man they now believed was their father. Ava felt angry at Maya for hiding the truth, and sorrowful for the fear that must have driven her. Zoe, ever analytical, began imagining what James might think if he knew. And Lily, with her tender heart, just wanted to know if their father could love them the way their mother had. The letter to Columbia now carried a new weight, not just a quest to find James, but a question that burned their hearts. Would he want to be part of their lives? At that moment, the sisters realized their journey wasn't just about finding a father. It was about understanding their mother and themselves. And though Clara tried to protect them, the truth was rising as boldly as Maya's painting still burned on the walls around them. The house on Maple Street in Oakville pulsed with quiet anticipation, as if the entire world held its breath alongside Ava, Zoe, and Lily. It had been over a week since the Triplet sisters, each 6 years old, had secretly sent a letter to Columbia University asking about James Carter, the man they believed to be their father. Aunt Clara's revelation about Maya's past love had ignited a spark of hope, but it also planted a seed of fear in their hearts. Would James want to know about them? While waiting each day became a delicate balancing act between eagerness and secrecy under Clara's sharp watch. Ava, ever bold and curious, became the designated mailbox checker each morning, slipping out in her sandals before Clara noticed, methodical and logical. Zoe kept detailed notes in her small notebook, the date the letter was sent. Clara's suspicious questions and stories from the Oakville community about Maya. Lily the dreamer continued to draw the man in the gray coat, now depicted standing before a grand door, as if about to step into their lives. But the girls' patience began to fray as days passed without a reply. Maybe the letter got lost, Ava muttered in frustration one evening as they sat under the nightlight. Or he doesn't work at Columbia anymore, Zoe replied, cautious as ever. But he came to the funeral, Lily whispered, hugging her sketchbook. He must remember Mom. With the perceptiveness of an elementary school teacher, Clara sensed a shift in the girls' behavior. They were more secretive and exchanged glances when she asked about schoolwork. Ava had developed a habit of going out to check the mail, Raised in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, where independence and responsibility were the guiding values, Clara had always believed Maya was right to keep James a secret. She watched her sister, a talented artist, weep weekly after James left for a European job. The envelope Clara had taken from the funeral still sat in her drawer, a quiet reminder of that pain. But Ava's resolve, Zoe's introspection, and Lily's drawings made Clara question whether she was holding them back from something they needed. She tried to soften, letting them eat toast with strawberry jam on Sunday mornings, as Maya used to, but the tension showed in her white-knuckled grip on her coffee mug. Though unaware of the letter, the Oakville community continued to shine a light on Maya's legacy. One afternoon, Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, invited the girls to view a picture book Maya had illustrated for the local children. She said your mother had a big heart, pointing at Maya's colorful drawings. She always said you girls were her light. Lily squeezed Zoe's hand and whispered, "If Mom loved us, she'd want us to find Dad right." Zoe nodded, but her eyes stayed on the artwork, searching for a hidden clue. Then one morning, everything changed. Ava, as usual, darted to the mailbox before Clara could call for breakfast. Amid flyers and ads, she found a thick, cream-colored envelope addressed in elegant handwriting with a postmark from Vermont. There was no name, but the return address read, James Carter, P.O. Box, 142, Burlington, VT. Ava froze, her heart thudding. She returned to the house, tucked the envelope under her jacket, and pulled Zoe and Lily into their bedroom. The three huddled beneath the bed, their usual secret meeting spot. With trembling hands, Ava opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten page, short but precise. Dear writers, I received your letter at Columbia University, where I once worked. I did know Maya Thompson, a remarkable woman. She was a light in my days in New York. If you are connected to her, please let me know. I no longer live in New York, but now reside in Burlington, Vermont. I'll gladly answer any questions you have. Sincerely, James Carter. Ava read the letter aloud, her voice trembling. He wrote back. Zoe said, eyes lighting up. He remembers Mom. Lily hugged her sketchbook and whispered, he doesn't know who we are, but he wants to. The letter, though brief, was a ray of light piercing the unknown. It confirmed that James wasn't just honest, he cared about Maya. But it also raised a bigger question. Should they tell him they were his daughters? Unaware of the letter's arrival, Clara noticed the girls' renewed excitement. When Ava smiled absent-mindedly over breakfast, Clara asked, "What's got you so cheerful?" "Just remembering one of Mom's stories." Ava replied quickly. Zoe caught the suspicious look in Clara's eyes. Lily, absent-mindedly drawing at the table, sketched a new scene. James standing in front of a wooden house, its door wide open. Clara glanced at the sketch, frowned, but said nothing, just gripped her coffee mug tighter. James's reply had changed the girls. Ava felt closer to the truth, but feared that James might not want to be a father. Zoe began planning their following letter, considering whether to reveal who they were. Sensibly and hopeful, Lily drew James with a smile, perhaps believing that he could love them the way Maya had. The letter from Vermont was not just another clue. It was an open door, a path into an unknown future, where the story of their family might finally be rewritten. The house on Maple Street in Oakville pulsed with a quiet blend of hope and anxiety. The letter from James Carter, sent from Burlington, Vermont, had confirmed that he had once loved Maya Thompson, the mother of Ava, Zoe, and Lily. After reading his words, the 6-year-old triplets now faced a major decision: should they write again and reveal that they were his daughters? Under the sharp watch of Aunt Clara, the girls had to keep everything secret. But a surprise gift from James and a revelation from Clara would soon change everything, and bring them closer to the truth about their family. Ava, ever bold and inquisitive, couldn't stop thinking about James's letter. He said Mom was his light. She whispered to Zoe and Lily in their bedroom, the nightlight casting a glow on her determined face. We have to tell him we're his daughters. Zoe, ever the logical one, hesitated. But what if he doesn't want us? We don't know how he lives now. Hugging her sketchbook, Lily drew a new picture: James standing in front of a wooden house, holding 3 flowers. He'll want to know, she said softly, though her eyes shimmered with tears. After much debate, the girls decided to write a second letter. Ava wrote, Dear Mr. James, we are Ava, Zoe, and Lily. We are 6 years old. Our mother was Maya Thompson. She passed away. We think you are our father. Zoe carefully checked every word, and Lily drew a small purple flower in the corner. The letter was once again delivered through kind Mr. Henry, with the same request: Don't tell Aunt Clara. While waiting, Clara noticed the quiet excitement growing in the girls. Ava smiled. More Zoe constantly wrote in her notebook, and Lily filled her pages with drawings of wooden houses. Clara, raised in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, where independence was a core value, had long believed Maya was right to keep James a secret. She had watched her sister suffer when James left for Europe, and the envelope from the funeral, still resting in her drawer, remained a painful reminder. But the changes in the girls made Clara question whether she was standing in their way. She tried to soften reading stories to them at night, though her suspicious gaze lingered every time Ava checked the mail. The Oakville community continued to nurture the girls. One afternoon, Mrs. Jenkins, the town librarian, hosted a story hour where children created drawings based on Maya's illustrated books. Your mother always spoke of love. Mrs. Jenkins told the girls, her eyes warm. She painted love into everything she touched. The words made Zoe squeeze Lily's hand and whisper, Mom loved James. That's why she kept his letters. Ava nodded, her eyes glowing. And he'll love us. Then one morning, a small package arrived. Zoe, who happened to check the mail instead of Ava, found a small box wrapped in brown paper, handwritten with the address, to Ava, Zoe, and Lily, Oakville. O.H. There was no listed sender, but the postmark read, Burlington, VT. Zoe ran inside, calling her sisters into their bedroom. The 3 of them sat on the floor, hearts racing. Inside the package were 3 small boxes wrapped in soft gray linen, each tagged with a name, Ava, Zoe, Lily. Ava opened hers first. Inside was a delicate silver chain with an oval pendant encasing a pressed purple flower. On the back was engraved, You are brave. Zoe's necklace held a blue flower. You are wise. Lily's featured a yellow blossom. You are radiant. There was no letter, no explanation. But the gifts said, everything James knew who they were, and he cared. Ava fastened her necklace, feeling a warm wave inside. He sent this for us, she whispered. Zoe touched her pendant, eyes shining. He's not angry. He wants us to know him. Lily hugged her necklace and said softly, just like Mom. She loved flowers. The girls sat silently, feeling an invisible connection to the father they had never met. At dinner that evening, Clara noticed the new necklaces and froze. What's that around your necks? She asked, her voice tense. Ava, quick thinking, replied, gifts from the library. But Zoe saw the doubt in Clara's eyes, and Lily, in her dreamy distraction, sketched James wearing a matching necklace. Clara glanced at the drawing, then left the table without a word. Later that night, she called the girls into the living room and placed an old wooden box before them. This belonged to your mother, she said, voice low. I wasn't ready to give it to you, but it may be time. Inside were Maya's letters, some from James written from Colombia and Europe. One stunned them all. Maya, I'll come back if you want me to. I don't want to lose you. James. Ava frowned. Mom never wrote back. Why? Clara sighed. She was afraid. Afraid of being hurt again. She wanted you to grow up and never have to wait on anyone. Lily, her eyes brimming, asked, But James wants to know us, doesn't he? For the first time, Clara didn't answer immediately. Her gaze drifted far away. James's gift and Maya's letters had changed the girls. Ava felt closer to her father, though she still carried anger toward her mother for the silence. Zoe began to understand the complicated nature of love, and Lily, with her open heart, longed to know if James could love them as much as Maya had. She drew another picture, the three wearing necklaces standing beside James under a blooming tree. Though still afraid, Clara began to accept what she could no longer deny. The girls needed the truth. And somewhere in Vermont, James was waiting with pressed flowers as his first promise to the daughters he had never known. The house on Maple Street in Oakville, though still infused with traces of Maya vibrant paintings and the faint scent of rose perfume, now carried a quiet tension. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplet sisters, lived in discreet joy after receiving a gift from James Carter. 3 necklaces with pressed flowers, confirming he knew about them. The second letter, revealing they were his daughters, had already been sent. But the girls had to tread carefully under Aunt Clara's watchful eye. A surprising confession from Clara regarding the envelope she took at the funeral would soon illuminate her fears and further strengthen the girls' resolve to connect with their father. Curious and bold, Ava wore her necklace with the purple flower every day, feeling as though James was growing closer. He sent this because he cares, she whispered to Zoe and Lily in their bedroom, the nightlight glowing on her radiant face. Zoe, logical and cautious, nodded with worry. We told him we were his daughters. What if he doesn't write back? Clutching her sketchbook, Lily drew a new image, James holding 3 necklaces in a flower garden. He will write, she whispered, full of hope. Though eager for a reply, the girls continued to hide. Everything from Clara, who was becoming increasingly suspicious. Clara Thompson, an elementary school teacher raised in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, had always placed responsibility above emotion. When Maya, her younger sister, decided to raise 3 children alone, Clara supported her, though she quietly worried about the challenges. She knew about James Maya's deep love from Columbia University and witnessed her sister's pain when James left for a European job. The envelope Clara took from the funeral had contained a letter from James, a painful reminder of that past. Clara had burned it, afraid James would disrupt the girls' lives. But now, seeing them wear the necklaces, Clara felt a pang of guilt. She wondered if she had kept them from a connection Maya might have wanted them to have. One evening, while the girls were doing homework in the living room, Clara noticed that Lily had left her sketchbook on the table. She opened it and froze. There was a drawing of James in a flower garden holding 3 necklaces that looked exactly like the ones the girls wore. Clara's heart pounded. Where did you get those necklaces? She asked sternly. Ava, quick thinking, replied, From the library, Auntie. But Zoe saw the tightness in Clara's eyes, and Lily, with childlike innocence, said, Not the library. From Mr. James. The air turned heavy. Clara, her hands trembling, called them into the kitchen. The girls sat around the table, Ava with arms crossed, Zoe gripping her notebook, and Lily hugging her drawings. Clara took a deep breath. I know you've been writing to James. I know about the letter you sent. Ava lifted her chin, eyes defiant. You burned the envelope from the funeral, didn't you? Why don't you want us to know him? Zoe calmer asked. What are you afraid of? Auntie Clara looked at them, her eyes softening with pain. I did burn that letter, she admitted, her voice low. I was afraid James would hurt you, the way he hurt your mother. She explained that after James left, Maya had cried for weeks, clutching his letters, but never replying. Clara said your mom, like me, grew up believing women had to be independent. She didn't want you to grow up with a father who stayed out of obligation. I thought keeping James away was protecting you. Ava frowned. But he sent the necklaces. He wants to know us. Lily, tears in her eyes, asked, Do you think Mom was wrong not to tell James? Clara, for the first time, didn't answer right away. I don't know, she whispered, gaze distant. Unaware of this inner conflict, the Oakville community continued to support the girls. The next morning, Mr. Henry stopped by, carrying a miniature painting Maya had once made for him. She always said you girls were her strength, he recalled with a warm smile. But she also spoke of someone in New York, as if she left a piece of her heart there. His words made Ava grip Zoe's hand. That was James, she whispered. Lily drew another picture, Maya and James standing together with 3 little girls between them. Clara's confession had changed something in the sisters. Although angry at Clara for burning the letter, Ava began to understand her aunt's fear. Analytical as always, Zoe realized that Maya and James's love was far more complicated than she had imagined. And Lily, with her sensitive heart, drew James with a smile, believing that he would love them. Though still anxious, Clara agreed to let the girls continue contacting James on one condition: they had to tell her everything. I want to protect you, she said gently, but I also want you to know the truth. The girls, wearing their necklaces, now felt closer to their father and mother. Ava touched her purple flower pendant, thinking about the following letter. Zoe wrote in her journal, Aunt Clara is afraid, but she's changing. And Lily drew one more picture, the 3 sisters standing beside James with Maya smiling from a distance. Clara's inner conflict, though painful, had opened a new path where the truth of their family was finally beginning to be rewritten. The house on Maple Street in Oakville, once filled with the vibrant memories of Maya, now brimmed with emotional anticipation. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplet sisters, had journeyed through secrets and doubt to finally connect with James Carter, the man they believed to be the stranger in the gray coat at their mother's funeral. James had written back after their second letter, revealing they were his daughters and the gift of 3 pressed flower necklaces from Vermont, expressing his desire to meet them. The first meeting was arranged under Clara's watchful eye, marking a turning point in the children's quest to rediscover their family. Ava, curious and bold, couldn't stop touching the necklace with the purple flower, feeling as though James was a puzzle piece about to complete the picture of their family. What do you think he looks like? She whispered to Zoe and Lily in the bedroom, the nightlight illuminating her excited face. Zoe, ever logical, voiced her concern. What if he's not like we imagined? Lily, hugging her sketchbook, had drawn a new picture. James, holding a bouquet, stood in front of their house on Maple Street. He'll like us, she said softly, but with certainty. Though thrilled, the girls prepared themselves under Clara's anxious gaze. Clara Thompson, raised in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, always considered protecting Ava, Zoe, and Lily her highest responsibility. After admitting she had burned James's letter from the funeral, Clara still wrestled with the fear that he might hurt the girls the way he once hurt Maya. But the girls' determination and Maya's letters revealing a deep love for James had changed her. She agreed to let James come to Oakville, but insisted the meeting happen at home where she could supervise. Clara said gently, I want you girls to be happy, though tension still laced her voice. But I also want you to be safe. The Oakville community, though not directly involved, offered quiet, emotional support. Mr. Henry, Maya's old friend and neighbor, stopped by to check on the girls, bringing a tin of cookies. "Your mother would be proud of you," he said with warmth. Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, sent a card that read, "Family is who we choose to love." These gestures reminded the girls they were surrounded by care, but also reinforced a truth. James, though their father, was still a stranger. On the day James arrived, the atmosphere in the Maple Street home was thick with nervous energy. Ava chose a blue dress that Maya had sewn, even though it was a little tight. Zoe clutched her small notebook as if she needed to document every detail. Lily wore her necklace with the yellow flower, holding her sketchbook close. Clara, composed yet tense, tidied the house. Her hands trembled slightly as she set out teacups. James had declined Clara's offer to pick him up from the bus stop, saying he wanted to walk to feel the town Maya once lived in. When the knock came soft but firm, the whole house fell silent. Clara opened the door, frozen for a moment. James Carter stood under the porch roof, tall, slender, pale-skinned, holding a baseball cap in one hand and wearing the same gray coat from the funeral. His blonde hair was flecked with silver, and his blue eyes reflected a mix of tension and sincerity. "Thank you for letting me come," he said in a low voice. Clara nodded and stepped aside. James entered, leaving faint wet footprints from his shoes on the floor. The girl sat on the sofa, like a living portrait, watching him. Ava sat upright. Zoe gripped her notebook. Lily blinked rapidly. James paused, his gaze sweeping over each of them. "You must be Ava, Zoe, and Lily," he said softly. Ava nodded, her voice steady. "I'm Ava." Zoe raised her hand slightly. "I'm Zoe." Lily whispered, her voice shaky. "I'm Lily." James smiled, a small, genuine smile. He said, "I've imagined this moment ever since I read your letter. I don't know exactly what to say, but I'm here." The conversation began hesitantly. James asked about school and their favorite things. Ava talked about adventure books. Zoe mentioned puzzles. Lily whispered about her drawings. James shared details about life in Vermont, how he teaches literature at a small school and tends a flower garden, a habit he said began with Maya. She loved carnations. He said, his eyes drifting. Ava, unable to resist her curiosity, asked, "Why didn't you come back to find Mom?" James looked down at his hands, fingers interlaced. "I tried to reach her, but she never responded. I thought, maybe she wanted a different life." Zoe, calm and composed, asked, "Did you know about us?" James shook his head, voice low. "No, not until your letter. If I had known, I would have come back." Lily, her voice trembling with emotion, asked, "Do you want to be our dad?" The question dropped like a stone into a still lake. James looked at them, his eyes filled with something deep and real. "I want to be someone you can trust," he said. "If you want to call me Dad, I'd be honored." Clara, standing quietly in the corner, observed it all. When James spoke of Maya, she saw pain in his eyes, the same pain she'd seen in her sister's. She brought tea and cookies, but didn't join the conversation, allowing the girls to explore this new connection independently. After about an hour, James stood and turned to Clara. "Thank you. I want to come back if that's all right." Ava reached for Zoe's hand. Lily smiled softly. Clara nodded, her voice gentle. "We'll talk." As James walked down Maple Street, the girls stood on the porch watching him go. Ava touched her necklace, sensing a new connection had begun. Zoe wrote in her notebook, "He's real. He wants to be here." Lily drew a picture of the three of them standing beneath a flowering tree with James. Clara, watching them, felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. The meeting had opened a door, and now the meaning of family was being redefined before her eyes. Once steeped in the sorrow of losing Maya, the house on Maple Street in Oakville had begun to fill with glimmers of hope. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplet sisters, had just experienced their first meeting with James Carter, the father they had searched for through secret letters and the gift of pressed flower necklaces from Vermont. The meeting, though simple, had opened a new door. But the girls' journey toward healing wasn't just about James. It was also about the community of Oakville, the people who kept Maya's spirit alive. Ongoing letters with James helped strengthen a sense of family, while Clara slowly learned to relinquish control. Ava, bold and curious, still wore the necklace with the purple flower, a reminder of James. "He said he'd come back," she whispered to Zoe and Lily in their bedroom, the nightlight reflecting her bright expression. Zoe, logical and steady, had documented every detail of the meeting in her small notebook. How James spoke about his garden, how his eyes softened when mentioning Maya. Zoe said he wanted to know us, and her voice was more certain than ever. The dreamer. Lily had drawn a new picture. The 3 sisters and James standing in a flower garden with Maya smiling from a distance. "He feels like one of Mom's stories," Lily whispered, hugging her sketchbook. Clara, Thompson, their guardian, was still adjusting after the meeting. Raised in a middle-class black family in Cleveland, where independence was a core value, Clara believed protecting the girls from James was right. But now, watching Ava talk about adventure books, Zoe analyze riddles, and Lily share her drawings of James, Clara realizes the girls need their father more than she once thought. Though still cautious, James's sincerity and the girls' unwavering hope had softened her. "I want you girls to have a whole family," Clara said one evening to Ava, her voice gentle. "But we have to take it one step at a time." Ava nodded, but her eyes glowed with determination. The Oakville community played a crucial role in the girls' healing. One afternoon, Mr. Henry, the neighbor, who had been Maya's close friend, invited the girls over to see a painting Maya had once made for him, a vibrant scene of Oakville Park. "Your mother saw beauty everywhere," he said warmly. "She always said you girls were her most beautiful painting." Lily squeezed Zoe's hand and whispered, "Mom's still here, isn't she?" Zoe nodded and wrote in her notebook, "Mom lives on in stories." Mrs. Jenkins, the town librarian, hosted a special evening at the library, a gathering where the community read poetry and displayed Maya's artwork. The girls were invited to share. Ava read aloud a short story Maya had written about an adventurous squirrel. Zoe presented one of Maya's paintings from the library wall, explaining how their mother used colors to tell stories. Lily, though shy, showed her new drawing, the 3 sisters and James in a flower garden. "This is my family," she said softly but proudly. The audience applauded. Mrs. Jenkins embraced the girls, saying, "Your mother would be so happy." That night, the girls felt Maya's presence not just in paintings, but in the love within Oakville. Meanwhile, James kept in touch through letters. A week after their meeting, an envelope from Vermont arrived containing 3 letters, one for each girl. To Ava, James wrote, "You remind me of your mother, always curious, never afraid to ask." To Zoe, "You have a sharp mind, like a true puzzle solver." To Lily, "Your drawings make me see the world in a better light." He enclosed a photo, James smiling beside a row of blooming carnations in Vermont. Ava hugged her letter, feeling her father closer than ever. Zoe wrote in her notebook, "He understands us." Lily drew James holding a bouquet with 3 little girls by his side. Seeing the girls read their letters, Clara didn't interfere. She watched silently. She realized James was not a threat, but a part of their family's story. One evening, Clara took the girls to the park where Maya once painted. She said, "Your mom loved this place," pointing to a grand oak tree. She said it reminded her of strength. Ava touched the tree, Feeling a connection to her mother, Zoe asked, "Do you think James loved Mom?" For the first time, Clara smiled gently. She loved him, and he loved her. That's why you're here. The girls began to heal with the community's support and the continued letters from James. Ava started writing a new story about three sisters on a journey to find their father. Zoe drew a map marking Oakville and Vermont as if bridging two worlds. Lily painted a large picture, the three sisters James and Maya beneath the oak tree, with carnations blooming all around. Clara, still cautious, helped the girls reply to James's letters, translating a simple greeting into French, Maya's favorite language. "Bonjour, papa," they wrote, giggling. Through stories and small gestures, the Oakville community helped the girls feel that family wasn't just James or Maya. It was also the town that loved them. And with each letter from Vermont, the girls knew that James, even from afar, was becoming an irreplaceable part of their lives. The house on Maple Street in Oakville, once marked by the ache of loss, had transformed into a space of acceptance and hope. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplet sisters, had found James Carter, the father they once knew, only through secret letters, pressed flower necklaces, and a brief but meaningful meeting. Through weekly letters from Vermont, the girls began to understand that family isn't always perfect, but can be built through love and effort. Clara, once a strict guardian, was changing too, learning to support the girls' journey toward connection. And the Oakville community continued to serve as a steady, comforting presence. Ava, the bold and curious one, had begun writing a new story in her notebook about three sisters who found their father through letters and flower necklaces. "Family is like a book," she told Zoe and Lily one evening, under the soft glow of the nightlight. "Not every page is pretty, but it's still ours, logical and precise." Zoe drew a map connecting Oakville to Burlington, Vermont, where James lived. She said, "We're drawing our way to him," her eyes gleaming. The Dreamer. Lily created a large painting, the three sisters James and Maya, beneath a blooming carnation tree with purple, blue, and yellow petals falling gently around them. "This is our real family," Lily whispered, hugging her sketch pad. Clara Thompson, who once tightly controlled every detail out of devotion to the ideals of her middle-class black upbringing in Cleveland, had softened. After meeting James, she realized the girls needed more than just her protection. They needed their father. She helped them respond to James's letters, translating simple phrases into French, Maya's favorite language, like, "Nous t'aimons," "we love you." Clara said your mother would be proud, with a soft smile, as she watched Ava writing, Zoe double-checking the spelling, and Lily sketching flowers on the envelope. Yet Clara still harbored a quiet fear that James, despite his sincerity, might not live up to the girls' hopes. She kept that fear to herself, determined to let the girls discover things independently. The Oakville community continued to support them through small but meaningful acts. Mr. Henry, Maya's longtime friend, brought an old notebook Maya once used for sketching. He said she wrote a few lines of poetry here and handed them to Lily. Inside, the girls found a short verse: "3 little stars shining through the night, guiding me through every dream." Ava read it aloud, feeling like their mother was speaking to them again. Zoe scribbled in her journal, "Mom knew we'd find James." Lily placed 3 stars on her new artwork gently above the carnation tree. James, meanwhile, continued writing faithfully every week. One envelope contained 3 photographs: James standing beside blooming carnations, reading in a cozy library, holding a sketch by Maya from their days at Columbia. His letter read, "You remind me of your mother, brave, wise, and radiant." He shared stories about his life in Vermont, teaching literature and tending a garden Maya had inspired. He asked the girls about the school, their interests, and their dreams. Ava replied that she wanted to be a writer. Zoe described her love of puzzles. Lily sent a new drawing of the three sisters and James beneath the oak tree in Oakville Park. James wrote back, "I hope to see that oak tree one day." Seeing how happy the girls were, Clara organized a family evening at the park, where Maya used to paint. The girls brought James's letters and read them aloud to Clara. "He says he wants to know everything about us," Ava said, eyes glowing. Zoe asked, "Do you think he'll ever move here?" Clara touched the old oak and replied, "I don't know, but he's trying." Lily, wearing her yellow flower necklace, whispered, "He's our papa." For the first time, Clara didn't correct her. She smiled. The girls' maturity revealed itself in embracing their family's story. Once angry at Maya for keeping secrets, Ava now understood that her mother had acted out of love. Zoe realized that James wasn't perfect, but he was trying. And Lily, with her tender heart, believed the family was made of those who choose to stay. They no longer asked why, they focused on what now. Ava wrote a new chapter in her story, three sisters exploring a forest with their father. Zoe drew a longer path on her map, one leading to Vermont. Lily painted James reading a book to the girls beneath the oak tree. The Oakville community continued to be part of that healing. Mrs. Jenkins at the library gave the girls a picture book Maya used to read to children. "Your mother believed family is made of those we choose," she said. That made Ava reach for Zoe's hand and whisper, "We choose James." Zoe nodded, writing in her notebook. Family is a choice. Lily added a new drawing, the three sisters James, Clara, and the Oakville community beneath the oak tree, surrounded by blooming carnations. The girls' growth wasn't just about accepting James, but about understanding Maya, Clara, and themselves. Clara, now more a mother than a guardian, felt peace watching the girls grow in love. And with every letter from Vermont, the girls knew, though imperfect, their family was being built, one step, one word, one drawing at a time. The house on Maple Street in Oakville, once a place that held the pain of losing their mother, had now become a space of healing and new beginnings. Ava, Zoe, and Lily, the 6-year-old triplet sisters, had completed their journey to find their father, connecting with James Carter through secret letters, the gift of a necklace, and an emotional meeting. Though the relationship with James was beginning, it brought them a sense of wholeness, reinforced by Maya's love, Clara's support, and the Oakville community. A small act, planting a flower in the garden, became a symbol of family reunion and new hope. Ava, the curious and bold one, wore the necklace with the purple flower, feeling as if Maya and James were beside her. "We have a real family now," she told Zoe and Lily in the bedroom, the nightlight casting a glow on her radiant face. With her logical mind, Zoe updated a map in her notebook, linking Oakville to Burlington, Vermont, where James lived. "We have him and Mom, Aunt Clara, and everyone," Zoe said, her eyes lighting up. Lily, the dreamy one, finished a drawing the three sisters James and Maya standing under a carnation tree with white blossoms falling everywhere. "This is forever," Lily whispered, hugging her sketchbook. Clara Thompson, once a strict guardian due to her belief in the independence of the black middle-class family in Cleveland, had now become an accurate mother figure. Clara felt relieved after accepting James and helping the girls connect with him. She no longer kept the envelope from the funeral a secret. Instead, she hung a painting of Maya in the living room as a reminder of her sister's love. Clara told the girls that your mother wanted you to be happy one evening, as the family reread Maya's poem about 3 little stars. Ava held Clara's hand and whispered, "You're our family too." Clara embraced the girls tightly for the first time, her eyes shimmering. The Oakville community remained a steady pillar. Mr. Henry, the neighbor, and Maya's old friend, brought over a pot of white carnations, saying that Maya loved this flower. "Plant it in the garden," he suggested, winking at the girls. Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian, organized a small exhibit at the library, displaying Maya's paintings and Lily's drawing of their reunited family. "Oakville is proud of you," she said, hugging the girls. These gestures helped the girls feel that Maya still lived in everyone's hearts and that James, even from afar, was part of that community. On a warm spring day, Clara and the girls planted carnations in the backyard. Ava chose a spot near the oak tree where Maya used to sit and draw. Zoe carefully dug the soil and placed the flower's roots. Lily, wearing a necklace with a yellow flower, sprinkled seeds around the pot, whispering, "This is for Mama and Papa." Kneeling beside them, Clara touched the soil, feeling like Maya was smiling. Mr. Henry stood nearby, capturing a photo of the three sisters Clara and the flower pot bathed in sunlight. "Your mom would have loved this," he said, his voice warm and deep. James from Vermont sent a special letter after hearing about the flower. He wrote that I planted a white carnation in my garden, including a photo of him smiling beside the plant. "We'll watch them bloom together, my children." He sent 3 carnation seeds, each wrapped in paper with the names Ava, Zoe, and Lily. "Plant them and think of me," James wrote. Ava read the letter and felt like her father was there. Zoe noted in her book, "Mr. James is part of our garden." Lily drew a picture, 2 carnation plants, one in Oakville, one in Vermont, with the 3 sisters standing in between. Their relationship with James continued to grow through letters. He sent stories about Vermont tales of a stray cat that often visited his garden and promised to return to Oakville in the summer. The girls replied. Ava wrote about her new story. Zoe sent him a riddle, and Lily drew James with the cat. Clara, now a companion in their journey, helped them translate a greeting in French. "A bientôt, Papa." "See you soon, Papa." James responded, "I'll see you soon," with many flowers. The girls' growth showed in how they accepted an imperfect family. Ava no longer felt angry at Maya, understanding that her mother kept secrets out of love. With her analytical mind, Zoe realized that family was built through daily choices. With her sensitive heart, Lily believed that Maya and James were always with them through the flowers. They no longer searched for answers. They were living them. Ava completed her story, titling it 3 Little Stars. Zoe drew a new map with roads connecting the whole world. Lily hung her final drawing in the room beside Maya's artwork. Clara, watching the girls grow, felt herself healing too. She organized a picnic in the park, inviting Mr. Henry and Mrs. Jenkins, where the girls recited Maya's poetry and talked about James. "Family is who we choose," Clara said, repeating Mrs. Jenkins' words. Ava, Zoe, and Lily nodded, holding hands, feeling that Oakville, James, and Maya were all part of them. The carnation in the garden began to bloom, its white petals fluttering in the spring breeze. Ava touched the flower. Zoe smiled, and Lily whispered, "For Mama and Papa." In Vermont, James looked at his blooming flower, knowing that one day he and his children would stand together beneath those blossoms. And in Oakville, 3 little stars continued to shine forever, bringing new hope for a family.